If you spend 5 minutes in the personal development world, then you'll hear some version of the same message: fulfill your potential. If you have enough drive, enough determination, enough motivation, enough education, then eventually you'll become who you're capable of becoming. Fulfill your potential. And in theory, this sounds true. I just don't think it is. And that's because we don't live our potential. We live our program. And think about that for a second. Every one of us has potential. We have the potential to love deeply, to lead courageously, to build something meaningful, to experience peace, to be fully alive. But potential isn't what determines how we think, what we believe, or how we behave. Something else does. And most people never realize that it's there. It's think about it like this. Maybe you've noticed how two people can have the exact same opportunity, and one sees possibility while the other sees everything that could go wrong. Or maybe you've seen two people receive the exact same compliment, and one simply says, "Thank you." And the other immediately explains why they don't deserve it. It's the same moment, just a different experience. Why? If potential were running the show, then we'd all make very different decisions than we do. We'd have the difficult conversation. We'd leave the unhealthy relationship. We'd start the business. We'd put the phone down. We'd stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. We already know what we should do. Most of the time, that's not the problem. In other words, the question isn't, why don't I know? The question is, why do I keep doing something different? Because we don't live our potential. We live our program. For years, I thought that I just needed more discipline or more confidence or a better strategy or a better morning routine. I thought if I could just improve myself enough, then I would finally fulfill my potential. And maybe you've thought that too. But what if the problem was never you? What if it was what had been running quietly in the background all along? You know, think about it like this. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "This is just how I am," or "I'm an overthinker. I always procrastinate. I don't trust people. I have a short fuse. I'm just wired this way." You know, we say those things so casually, as if we're describing the weather. But who introduced you to that version of yourself? Because none of us arrived here believing what we believe today. No one is born. Babies are not born believing that money is scarce, or that emotions should be hidden, or that love has to be earned, or that mistakes aren't safe, or success determines your worth. We learn those things. No one is born believing that they're not enough. Somewhere we learn that. You know, think about a little child. They're not sitting around wondering whether they're enough. They aren't trying to earn their value. They aren't measuring themselves against everyone else. They simply experience life until life begins teaching them how to survive it. You know, maybe you grew up in a home where conflict meant danger. So now you avoid conflict. You avoid difficult conversations. Maybe approval was how you stayed connected. So now disappointing people feels unbearable. Maybe your family struggled financially. So even after you've made more money than you ever imagined, you still can't relax. The circumstances changed. The response didn't. That's how you know you're looking at the program. I've seen entrepreneurs build extraordinary businesses while still carrying the emotional reactions of a 12-year-old. And that doesn't mean that they're immature. because success doesn't rewrite the programming. It doesn't rewrite the programming that was learned years earlier. Success doesn't do that. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about achievement. We think a new level of success creates a new way of being. Sometimes most of the time, maybe it just gives the old way of being more influence. The successful entrepreneur who can't stop thinking about work, even with their family. What about the respected leader who needs everyone's approval? The person who has everything they once dreamed about and still doesn't feel like it's enough. When we look at those situations, the business changed, the income changed, the address changed, but the story followed you there because the program came too. And because it's been there for so long, it doesn't feel like something you learned. It feels like your reality. It feels like you. It's like putting a pair of glasses on as a child and forgetting that you're wearing them. You don't realize you're looking through a lens. You just assume that that's the way the world is. That is what a program does. It quietly shapes what feels normal, what feels possible, what feels threatening, what feels familiar. It influences your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions without ever introducing itself. And that's why we spend so much of our lives trying to fulfill our potential when potential was never the thing making decisions. The program was. And here's the exciting part. Just because you learn something doesn't mean it's you. You can experience fear without being fear. You can experience self-doubt without becoming self-doubt. You can repeat a pattern without that pattern defining you. Those things may have been learned. They may have been practiced. They may have been reinforced, but that doesn't make them who you are. It makes them your program. Just because you learn something doesn't mean it's you, which means the life you've been living hasn't been coming from who you are. It's been coming from who you were programmed to be. And that's why we don't live our potential, we live our programming. And that's also why your next level of success isn't something you achieve or someone you become. Your next level of success is letting go of who you're not.